Hey guys, how are you doing? Hello there, what's up? Today we're going to be making this sci-fi scene in 2.8. If you have any questions, you can just leave them in the chat. Hello, Yura, how are you doing? Yeah, so what I'm going to do is just going to use this here. Hey, let me first change. I'm great. Let me just change the angle here. I'm going to use a solidify modifier on this, like the usual way. Then add a bevel. Apply scale. Let's do the normal stuff we do here on the daily basis. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the array, constant offset. Henry D, my man, back at it again. Yeah, man, every day. Okay, let's see. I have an issue with one of my projects that I was working on. What's the issue, man? What is the issue? Let's use 10 meters. Now that's too far. Let's try 8. Then increase that to as much as we want. Now what we're going to use is a boolean to cut out these shapes. And this boolean will be above the mirror and the bevel, like so. We are just going to change the visibility here of viewport display to wire for this bevel. Now we can just make the edits we want. Hello B00D, how are you doing? Do you have to change the color of each object manually or is there a mode for it? For the colors, you just have to go under the overlay of viewport shadings and turn on random colors here. And I don't understand English, so I just watch it. Sorry. Oh, that's no problem. As long as, yeah, I'm not sure. Since you don't understand English, I don't even know how to explain this or how to reply to that, because English is the only language I can understand. I can speak that you understand. But yeah, thank you for being around. Alright, my project rigid body is visible during the work, but after the render, it's invisible. Try going into the outliner, your outliner, like here, and under the filters here, make sure you turn on rendered here, and look at these camera icons. If any of them is off, it means the object won't render. So for example, if I don't want these to render, I can, if I turn that off from here and I hit render, they will not show, as you can see. So just make sure they are on, so that when you hit render, they render. Hello Swites, Joses. Bool tool, yeah, it's the boolean tool, so yeah, it just lets you cut out shapes. Yeah, so and B001, I'm okay, thank you for asking. Hope you okay. I'm great. I'm great. Okay, let's continue making cutouts here. Let me just bring back my image editor. So I think we're not going to for this for a similar design here. We're just using that for reference images, for reference. Yeah, for reference. I can. But I like those angled edges. They make things look more sci-fi. So. Select that edge and that, label them like that. And I'm going to also apply a solidify modifier for this, so that I can add in a few extra details. And maybe instead of just doing that, let me add a mirror modifier, so that this is a double what is it called, double mirror, double-sided door, like that. And actually we shouldn't delete the solidify modifier, because it hopes so that we don't have to do a lot of work. So let's bring it back in. Now I'm just going to select part of this mesh, and since it has most of the modifiers, just going to separate it into a different object like that. And we don't need the solidify modifier, and we don't need the boolean, and we don't need the mirror. We're just going to create a few extra shapes that we could need for the ceiling. Maybe for this as well, just going to add in a few extra edges. Actually, it should be this here. we can make this. Did it work? Did it work for you? I think that's what would cause such an error, but you can try it out and see if that works for you. Okay, something like that. And if you want, we can add in a few extra details. Maybe not there. We can use this boolean here. So I'm just going to select a face, something like this. And punch a small hole. Can even add in extra details like that. How many years of Blender? I have around 10 years now, so it's been a while. Let's start on. Let's start working on the lighting and setting up everything to look as we want. I'm also going to use. This doesn't have to be this long. We can use the same boolean modifier. Sorry, the same modifiers that we're using elsewhere for this as well. So I'm just going to select this. Let me first reset the geometry and then apply the scale. We can also just use the same modifiers we have here, controlling modifiers. Except the mirror, we don't need that, and also this we don't need. Okay, this mirror is supposed to be above the array at work as expected, like that. Now let's just start working on the lighting. First, let's make the lights. So I want the light to sit somewhere in this here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another mesh from this, Shift D, and use it as a boolean object. Control L, P, origin to reset. We don't need the array, but I'm not sure what design I want to go with here. Let's see. If we go to change this to wireframe, we can use it as a boolean object, but make sure that it's above the array and the bill. You might want to recalculate normals for the mesh like that. And I think the design I want to have for these lights is something like let me just something like that, and then it just repeats a few times on the y-axis. And to make it more sci-fi, just going to add in a few edge loop. I took your advice, man. I started making at least one render a day and tried to use Blender as often as I can. My stuff now is a lot better than I started, but there's still a lot to learn. Yeah, there's always a lot to learn, but yeah, if you approach it like that, you will get better, way better than a lot of people. Yeah, that's also my trick here. I do this nearly every day so that I can get better at it. Yeah, so I think these are very nice details. You just need to, yeah, like that. I even maybe on this side here we can have them, so I'm just going to duplicate this. So we have something like that. So our lights, I will sit inside there, and so I'm just going to select. I like using constant offset instead of this relative, because I can just copy over the number to something else. So I'm just going to add a circle, and I use around 8 vertices for our light source. Rotate this on the x-axis. If you're new here, please subscribe for more content like this, and it also reassures me that what I'm doing is helpful to you guys. So it's like a feedback to me. So yeah, if you want to watch more content like this, you can leave a like and subscribe as well if you're new here. So we're going to use these as those fluorescent lights. And I'm not going to make them any fancier than they are, just tubes like that. And what I can do now is use Ctrl L to link the modifiers, and just apply scale, apply rotation, and this should be extended to this like that. I think we can use 2 tubes, so I'll just duplicate these, something like that, and then I can increase the array count. Actually, not this array count. I'll have to copy this and then increase the relative offset so that each of these new arrays has tubes in them. I can make this go on for as long as I want, like so. Now let's start working on lighting. So for these tubes, let me first give them an emissive material. So I'll call this light, maybe blue light. Use the emission value, and for the color, I'm just going to use RGB. I think I already saw this somewhere. You did? Ah, nice. I got the reference image from Pinterest. You saw that from there. I would also like these lights to have some translucent, so I'm just going to add a translucent shader. I'm always not sure what looks better, translucent or just emission shader directly. So I'm just going to mix both with mix RGB, have the translucent here and that there. Make the translucent a bit more powerful, and I should use the same color as the emissive color, like that. You might have seen it in the movie called Moon. I don't think I've seen that. All of these sci-fi stuff look similar, so yeah. I think I'm going now for the lighting. Because this is Eevee, I'm just going to use a point light. Just move it into position like that. Then just turn on contact shadows, increase the power something like 100, which is a bit much, but also turn on custom shadow, custom distance, and reduce that a bit. I'm also going to reduce the radius so that the shadows are not too soft, like so. And now remember, we have to duplicate these all the way to that side, but just instead of just using Shift D to duplicate these lights, what I'm going to do is parent these to a plane like this. So Control P, Control P object, and then this plane, I'll give it an instancing by vertices, so that for each vertex this plane has, a light is duplicated on it. Then I can delete these vertices where we shouldn't have lights. Now I can use an array with a constant value to position the lights. Now I just have to increase the count. You can see how easily that makes things. I don't have to duplicate things manually. Which monitor do you use? I use a very cheap monitor. They are both HP monitors. Nothing fancy about them. Let's make sure that the lights are really seated in their position. Something like that. Now this is the original light here, so we can play with that to get the kind of lighting we want. And the light is not powerful enough, so I'm just going to increase the distance here. Okay, what's going on? Okay, I think, yeah, it's out of the... I need to reposition the lights here so that they're visible, and maybe reduce the distance. Is the render in Eevee? Yeah, we are working in Eevee. Do you mean this one here? For reference image? Oh, that's not in Eevee. Let's see, what else do we need? We can start working on the texturing of this asset or this object. You can start by working on this piece here. What I usually like to do is increase the factor of the ambient occlusion and the distance, so that I have some nice shading for the lights, for the walls or corners. And also then, now let's start working on the materials for this. So this is going to be our panels. I'll call them panels like that, and I'm going to use let's see. There's a texture I like to use that has some nice details. Yeah, this here. But I don't want to use it directly. And for the mapping, for the UV mapping, I'm just going to use projection mapping with the operation of the projection of box. Scale these details up a bit like that, and I just use a color mix RGB to blend these details into our material. So I'm just trying to use overlay here. I don't want because I want this surface to be a bit clean, I'm not going to make the texture come through too much. Make it a bit reflective, the surface a bit reflective, and use another texture to break up the roughness a bit. Something like grunge maps. Let me find something like this here. Again, it's going to use the same object mapping. Like that. Just going to blend it with this other texture. Let's try multiply. Then add but we want this to be a bit more reflective than this, so I'm just going to use this to make it a bit more reflective. And also I think I'm going to use these details here. To add in some bit of detail with the bump map of that. Sorry, better bump. Just going to reduce the distance by a bit. It doesn't look like much right now. That's because we still have to set up our materials to look right. And just add some background lighting here. And the bump map is a bit too high, so I'm just going to reduce that even further, 0.05, so it's not overpowering everything. And also I'm going to add in some clear coat to make the surface even more reflective, more shiny. Let's make these bulbs a bit brighter, changing the value here to something like 10. Now for these lights, I'm going to change the light to an area light, like that, so that we can see things a bit better and also see those lights. And for these tubes, I'm going to make them not have a shadow, so so maybe bring them down a bit. There, maybe also grab this, bring it down a bit like that. And if you want to make things more interesting, you can add an irradiance map to bake the indirect lighting. I'm not going to scale it all the way to the back because the camera won't be seeing that far, so now we can turn on screen space reflections, and then let's bake some indirect lighting here. Yeah, so yeah, let's just turn off these reflections a bit. You can see how the lighting is baking. We just also need a few extra lights on this side, what I'm going to do is just mirror this on the other side. So add a mirror like that, and also mirror these, the pipes, and let's also mirror the point lights by mirroring this mesh. Now we just have to reduce, I think we just have to bake again, but I need to scale this radiance map so that it extends all the way. I think my light is a bit too high, so we might want to reduce that a bit so that it's not too high as that, because right now we are almost not seeing anything. First, I'm going to reduce the emission from the HDRI, and then go to my point light or my area light, reduce this to something like 10, and then bake again. Okay, seems the light is still too high. Almost not seeing anything. Let's try 5, and then let's reduce again the strength here, 0.5. And another thing we can try is to use our visibility collection here. So I'm going to select the walls and maybe these here, add them to a new collection. I'll call this bake for the indirect lighting, and I can select our irradiance and select the bake collection. That way we only bake those surfaces. Now I can scale this up to as far as I want, and hopefully that will give us better results. And I'm also just going to add something to block the light from the background here, from the back, like a wall surface on the back there. Nice big. Just make sure that we have this as the big object or collection. Henry D, where do you think the Blender is lacking in some areas, and what do you want to see in the future? Mostly in the UV mapping. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things they can improve in the UV mapping. You have to do a lot of hacks to straighten your UVs. So if that could be fixed, it would make things far much better. Just increase the strength here, just a bit. Yeah, mostly that, mostly there. And what else? And also motion blur in Eevee. But these are all things that have already been suggested and talked about. Just maybe it's just that they're harder to implement than we think, so that's why they haven't implemented them yet. So I'm just tweaking the lighting a bit to see that I get proper lighting. Just go back. Let's try. And I think what the other thing I could do is just duplicate this light, make it a point light, and just have it in the center, so that our center is also lit. And what I'm also going to do is just duplicate this mesh here that has our lighting. Just going to remove this mirror. Hello fish in the mirror, how are you doing? Welcome back. Let's just increase the radius of this. Let me turn on pass out here so that we just see the inside there. Let's see. See, we just need a better HDRI image, because I can see if I switch between these ones here, see they look far better. So let's play around with different ones and see. So let's try and improve our screen space reflections. Maybe increase the samples a bit. And let's see what else can we do. Turn on bloom. But I'm just going to reduce the radius. And maybe the intensity as well. So that is not too overwhelming. Now we just need to add in a few extra details here to make our scene look much better. What I'm going to do, let me just duplicate this. I would like to see better mockup capabilities in the software. It's extremely lacking compared to Maya and Unreal Engine workflows. Blender is a very great application in a lot of ways, but still lacks enough in a few areas. Like any other software, even Maya has a few areas where its users think it would improve. But yeah. But I also like how fast Blender development is, and the different changes, how fast improvements are made. So I guess that's a plus. So let's continue adding a few extra details here and there. Let's see, what should I add here? Let me bring back my samples here to 16 because it's making my computer lag too much. So just adding in a few extra details. To make things look better. So everything in our scene looks white, so we can make a few changes to improve the scene. I'm just going to build this, maybe adding something like that, and maybe just add a few loops here. Thinking of other things I could do here. I'm going to make the flow darker, so I'm just going to select parts of it. Like that.
Only the names have been changed.
assign them to a new panel material, then just make this a bit darker like that. Maybe also reduce the clear coat. Hello Mustafa, how are you doing? Make this surface a bit darker like that. And also I'm going to make some of these walls darker. Like that. Now just by introducing some contrast into the surface, you can see it makes the scene look a bit different. And maybe this top area as well, these top panels can be a bit darker. Now if you want, we can use the boolean we created here to add in extra details. Then you can see we have some glass. This is glass, so for that we can just use this surface itself as the glass surface. So just separate it and go back to the display here. Now this give it some solidify modifier, maybe a bevel as well. Now let's make this glass. So for that we need a transmission and an alpha value, and then in material settings we just change this to alpha blend and no shadow. Just reduce the reflectiveness. Also turn on screen space reflections, and in the settings, render settings and screen space, turn on refractions. Now it gives us that frosted glass quite easily. So, and I also want to break up this glass so that it's not just one flat panel. I want it to be different panels. So I'm just going to cut in different areas using the knife tool like that. And now since I have a bevel modifier, I can select these edges like that, hit V, separate them, and you can see now they look subdivided like that. I'm also going to projection UV unwrap this. So unwrap projection from view, so that we can write some words on there. So let's see what should we do. Let's write a number here. So I'm just going to open up Photoshop. Let's just make sure that this is placed in there like that. Now let's see, what do we, let's just open, create a new project here. I'm just going to use let's write some words here. We need a better font for this. Let me just download a font here. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like for the channel. Let's use, I think it's called, let's use sci-fi. Sci-fi fonts. Let's see. I think what we can do, we can use some of these could be lights. So a few of these could be lights, meaning we can give them the light material. So let me just blue light material. I think that makes things a bit better. I think this texture needs to be scaled up a bit. So not sure which texture, which font to use here. Just download a few. Let me use this as well. Now let's so if you don't know how to install fonts in Blender, this is how you do it. It's very simple and straightforward. Just download the font, install it. Like this. when you add a text, you should be able to access it from the fonts. But I want to actually use this in Photoshop, and the fonts were called Space and Neutral. Yeah, so we're going to have something like that. I'm not sure about this font. So the other font was called Little something. Yeah, that's much better, I think. So let's see, we can call this lab. What else do we have? And I also want a large font here. Like that. Okay. Let's see how we're going to use these. And just set it on desktop. Okay, so we can get our door here, our glass. And then import our texture. So I think that's not too bad. So you can just come back here and realign it however we want. But that is not too bad. So there are a few ways we can use this texture. We can use it directly into the base color, like that, or we can make it, I'll just show you here. So you can see, let me just show you, we have frosted glass, and we can make it as some areas can be like frosted glass like that. But if we use a color mix RGB, we can use this as a mask for areas where we have frosted glass and clear glass. So we can make this like that, so the other areas are clear, or we can make these areas less clear, but yeah, something like that as well. But I think for that we would need a larger font, a more bold font. So let me just use, let's just grab this, and I think area around it could, it's too different from the boxy font we have. Let me just go through these fonts and see which one would work best. Let's see if this has a bold font. I'm just going to increase the boldness as well, like that. Let's call this AVX Tech Research. This I don't like how this font looks, but yeah, let me just use this directly here. But instead of just having that word, let me go to view this and just use a letter like this. It's more abstract, and yeah, let's see, we can also add it in different areas. And I don't want this to be too frosted or too unclear, so let's make it more clear. Also, another thing I can do here is just have the insides of this have the second material. So I think this doesn't look too bad. And then for this ground, let me actually make this a different material. So I'll call this ground. Okay, first separate it and maybe turn off some of these arrays for a second. And I can just select this, unwrap it, and use our texture. Image texture, image texture. Now if we map this, I remember we already have these reflection surfaces already, but we want to also add in our texture here. But let's first map this correctly. Now let's just go in here into Photoshop, just create a small section for that area, so we can have something like that. And I just add a small wording here, EVX labs. Let me just create something weird here, human dev let's just write something interesting. settings are correction research. And you can design a logo and throw it in there if you want, something like that. I want to save this where my project is so that I don't forget. But for now, let me just save it directly on my desktop, which is a bad habit because it's very easy to forget where you're saving this. But in case you do, I use textures from a different and have them in a different folder. Just go under File, External Data Pack into Blender, so that Blender can collect all your files into one nice folder. So let's use that. Now I can just map this again. Can it do in Blender 2.79? I wish my yeah, you can, but because 2.9 doesn't have Eevee, you won't be able to preview it like this. So now that we have this surface, bring back the array. We're going to use, so we have this mask, this texture here. We want to mix it with this color here. So I'm just going to add a color, mix RGB, have this as color 1, this is as a factor, like that, and connect this directly into the base color. Now we should be able to see the words. But we want to invert the opposite of this. So this the whites, this has to be white and the surface should be black. Now I also want this on this surface here, so meaning that these two areas here can also be mapped in the same way. Just unwrap them and start moving things around. On this side here, we should be this entire this here. You can just have it with this quad later. So the top, it won't even be visible, so I'm not going to worry about that. And just make sure that these words here are visible. So something like that. Okay, I don't like how this is becoming too much. So instead of using it in the base color, I'm just going to have it be in frosted glass, something like that. And there's still a lot we can do here. For example, we can add in a few extra details here. So let me just add a circle. And this here, you can use a different material as well. Can you learn how to create gun shooting with particles? I think I have a tutorial on that already. Let's see what else can we do. I think for now this is going to be it, and that's what we managed to do in a period of 1 hour and 15 minutes. So imagine if you spent more time on this, worked on your textures a bit more, and used cycles to render these. I think it would look superb, far better than this. So you can try it out on your own and maybe share your results on Discord, which you can find the link. Just show you. Yeah, so you can just click on this and it will take you to the invitation page in case this is expired. So you can also see what we have been doing in the previous streams. We made a tunnel. If you didn't see that, we did some gaming. It was a very short stream. I was just testing out to see how my computer would handle live streaming video games, but we also did the Stark Tower and then some Avenger stuff. If you want to watch that, you can watch that. If you want the project files, you can become a patron. All the links are here. Also, if you want to see some of the render images from the projects we do, you can either go to Discord or go to my CG Trader account, and you can see the render results directly there. I'll give this a render in cycles just to see how things look. But every time you use booleans, make sure like here, if you don't want them to render in your final results, make sure that you go to the outliner and select all the boolean objects that you used, and make sure you don't render them. So like here, like that. I'll give this a simple slight animation of a camera pushing forward. Maybe I'll render that as well. Actually, this looks far better. This looks far better. Than what I expected. And again, we can try and bake the light again. This is what we have, which I think looks great. Something we have done in 1 hour and a half, or less than one hour and a half, and without even adding too much detail. So that's it for the stream. See you tomorrow. Thank you. You can subscribe if you're new here, or leave a like